Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic here on the weekends. Now, on the John Campea Show during the weekdays, Monday through Friday, we save some time to take live questions, but I know we love doing live questions, so that's all we do here on the weekends is Open Mic questions, and that's what we're going to do here today. And it is, of course, Star Wars Day, so a happy Star Wars Day to all of you guys out there. So let's get things going, and we're going to start things off with the first question today from Chad's Big Huge Geek Commentary, who writes, whatever happened to that Emma Stone Cruella movie? Seems they announced it forever ago. They did. They did announce it forever ago. And then it went dark for a long time. We never heard anything about it for a while. And then in like December or January, just recently, news came out. Oh, no. It was like in February, news came out that they're probably going to start shooting that this summer. Now, originally, it was slated for a this May release. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But they are saying, the last word I heard is that they're going to start shooting it this summer. All right, Taki75 writes, MCU's next big villain will be Noob Master 69. I can't talk about that, but yeah, possible. Vaishno Zin writes, a sad way to end NK's story. Show makes no sense now. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know who NK is, and I don't know what show you're talking about. Sorry, man. Tyler Van writes, what's your favorite Ron Howard movie? Mine would be Frost Nixon. Frost Nixon is very good, but I've got a couple that would be ahead of that, primarily Backdraft. You go, we go. Backdraft, man. That will forever be my favorite Ron Howard movie. There's so much cool in that movie. It's just so good. It's a great mystery. It's great action. It's great. The humor, when they go for humor, is really sharp. It's the characters are great. I love Backdraft, man. Good question. Ron Howard's a tremendously underrated director. He's one of my favorite directors of this generation, really. Ben Rayner writes, hey, John, I just read a deleted scene for Endgame. Giant ant joined forces with the drumming octopus from Aquaman to ride a space whale to save Iron Spider, while en route they watch the Schneider Cut. And that's a whole lot of wrong put into one statement, Ben. I'll tell you what. I'm just going to tell you something. I'm not going to give a spoiler away, but I'll tell you something that wasn't in Endgame, so everybody can breathe a sigh of relief. I was so worried that it was going to be the giant drumming ant from the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp that gets Scott out of the quantum realm. And I told you, and I would have done it, I told you, if that happens in Endgame, I'm going to get up and walk out of the premiere. I said I would go back and watch it again later, but I'd be so taken out of the movie, I would have to get up and walk out of the premiere. So I can tell you, though, breathe deep, it wasn't that. That's not what got Scott out of the quantum realm. All right. Senior Eric writes, hey, John, I watched the new Ted Bundy movie that was dropped on Netflix, and I made it into the last hour and stopped watching. It's utter garbage. Yeah, look, I'll tell you what. I was very intrigued and very interested, Eric, in this movie. The moment I heard, because I'm a big fan of Zac Efron, I think he's a tremendously underrated actor. I think he's a very, very, you may not like all the movies he's in, but he's a good actor. And if you don't believe it, go watch You, Me, and Orson Welles. He's awesome in it. Anyway, so I was intrigued, and I thought this would be a good, source material for a story. And then I heard it got dumped to Netflix. And whenever I hear a movie gets dumped to Netflix, I lose a lot of my enthusiasm. And maybe that's not fair. Don't tell me that, John, that's not fair. I agree. It's not fair. I agree. But it is what it is. And so I didn't get around to watching it, and I'm hearing from a few people it's not so hot. I've talked to a couple people that liked it, but I've also heard from a number of people like you, Eric, that aren't liking it so much. Henry K. writes, today is Free Comic Book Day and Star Wars Day. I totally forgot. Is today Free Comic Book Day? I think I know something Ann and I are going to have to do when we're done the show day. Thanks for the heads up, Henry. Damian Davies writes, I have never felt such elation and euphoria during any comic book movie like the final act of Whedon's first Avengers movie. I concur. The New York battle, Endgame included. Yeah, now look, I still think that the final hour of Endgame may be the finest hour ever in any comic book movie. But I'm going to agree with you, Damon. I mean, I still prefer the first Avengers movie overall. And I agree. I've never felt that sort of adrenaline rush like the first time we saw that movie. And because there was nothing remotely like it before. And the first time we get to see Hulk jumping around, like when Captain America gives Hulk his marching orders, Hulk looks at him, smash. And Hulk smiles and he starts wrecking shop. Oh my, I'm getting goosebumps and the hair standing up on my arm just thinking about it. So yeah, nothing matches that, man. Phi Nguyen writes, are you familiar with the binaural audio? It's like surround sound with headphones. Do you think movies will utilize it more since people watch on phones more? Nah, you don't make movies for the secondary market. Now, I have heard that stuff before. My buddy brought it over once, like a file of it once, and played it for me, and it was weird, man, in a very cool way, but weird. But you don't design your movies for the secondary market, and watching on phones and on your home system later, that's secondary market. So I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. If it becomes a very easy piece of technology to use, maybe, but who knows? Colby Harris writes, Dear John, I sent you an email. I'm sending you a gift. Well, I don't actually allow people to send me stuff physically. I don't have a mailing address or anything people can send me, but it's a very nice thought, Colby. Anyway, thank you for that. Matsif Jada writes, you've seen Tolkien? No, I haven't. I was excited about it, and then I heard people saying they didn't like it so much. That took some of the wind out of my sails. I'm planning on seeing it this week. But last night we had this big Boys and Girls Club of Burbank fundraiser gala to go to, and then a friend's birthday party. And so obviously I couldn't go see anything last night. Obviously I haven't seen anything yet today. Ann and I are going out of town tonight. So I'm going to see it, but I have not had a chance to see it up to this point. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, can I be your apprentice and eventually hotspot? Oh, host the show with you or anything. I'll work for free and prove my worth. Unfortunately, I appreciate the offer, but no, I am not taking applicants for co-host, but thank you for asking anyway, my friend. Dirk Diggler writes, I think if the producers of Sonic would add Knuckles, Amy Rose, and Shadow, that the look of the film will be great. Oh, wait, we'll just tell the director and he will make changes. It's our film. I don't know. Are these other characters from Sonic? Again, I never played Sega. I always played the other systems when I was a kid, so I never played Sega. I'm not well versed in the lore or the things of Sonic, so I don't really know what you're going for there, Dirk. I'm not quite sure what it is you're saying. But anyway, this is super generous super chat. Thank you for sending that in and supporting the channel. I wish I could give you a better answer than that, but I'm not wrapping my head around the question. I apologize, Dirk, for that, but thank you for sending that in anyway. Let's see. Stubble McShave writes, apparently Russell Crowe was the first choice for Wolverine. He passed and suggested they should ask Hugh Jackman. Do you think Crowe would have been good as Wolverine? Of course he would have. He's one of the world's greatest actors. Russell Crowe is just flat out one of the world's greatest actors. Of course he would have been a good Wolverine. There's probably 20 or 30 other actors that would have been really good Wolverines. And by the way, Russell Crowe wasn't the only guy they looked at before Hugh Jackman. The offer went out to a lot of guys. If you read up the history of it, there were a number of people they made the offer to that didn't take it because at the time, comic book movies at the time were not what comic book movies are now. So a lot of actors were passing on it. And but in the general sense of would Crowe have been good? Of course, he's one of the world's greatest actors. Of course he would have been good at it. As good as Hugh Jackman, we'll never know, but he would have been a good Wolverine, that's for sure. Okay. ZOMG Ruler writes, over under 20% Detective Pikachu and Sonic start a Smash Bros. Cinematic universe. I'll take the big 0 on that. Damian Davies writes, the new Star Trek movies inspired me to watch the older shows, such as The Next Generation, Voyagers, Deep Space Nine, and the first 10 movies. Was always a Star Wars guy, and the first 10 movies was always Star Wars, not Trek. Let me try this again. The new Star Trek movies inspired me to watch the older shows such as The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. The first 10 movies was always Star Wars, not Trek. Thought that Star Trek looks too highbrow. You probably just put in an extra Star Wars not in there. I've always liked both. Now, clearly I am a Star Wars guy, but my mom watched the original. She would watch the reruns of the original Star Trek series all the time. So I got caught on to Star Trek because my mom would have it on TV. And I liked Star Trek a lot. No, it's not in the same league for me as Star Wars, granted, but I like Star Trek a lot. The original series, Star Trek The Next Generation, there are parts of Deep Space Nine that I like very much. I wasn't ever really a Voyager guy, although I did watch all of it, and I certainly liked aspects of it. Yeah, so all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it did have the appearance of more highbrow as compared to, but really when it comes down to it, it's all just basically sci-fi adventure stuff with your characters, whatever. I preferred Star Wars. Some people prefer Star Trek, but I actually am very pro on both camp. And I'm glad you gave it a chance, Damien. I'm glad you checked it out. All right. Larry Noss writes, "Hey, John, have you seen Wakefield on Netflix with Bryan Cranston and Jennifer Garner?" I have not. As a matter of fact, Larry, I've never even heard of it. So just another thing that looks like Netflix just dumped on there and didn't really promote, because no, I've never even heard of it. So, but it's got Jennifer Garner in it, so sign me up. So I'm gonna have to go and check that out. Thanks for the heads up, Larry. Guy Volt writes, "Who you got winning the Al Quinta versus Cowboy Cerrone?" I got Cerrone winning it, but I'll tell you what, Al is no joke. This dude got his ass beat, but he went the distance with Khabib. Not a lot of guys can go the distance with Khabib. He went the distance. Got his ass handed to him, granted, but he went the distance with Khabib. A lot of big names cannot go the distance with Khabib. McGregor had to tap out. So take him for real. Take him seriously. But Cowboy's one of the most entertaining fighters to watch, and he's on a streak, so I got Cowboy. Willow Yang writes, "May the 4th be with you." Thank you, Willow, and may the 4th be with you as well. Happy Star Wars Day to everybody. Luke1234 writes, "Over under 15%, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 mentions Silver Surfer." I'm going to take the under on that. But then again, it all depends on when they're going to aim to have Guardians of the Galaxy 3 come out. Like, we've already known that Kevin Feige has kind of let everybody know that we're not going to get any references to the Fantastic Four X-Men universe stuff for a couple of years. But it's going to be a couple of years till we see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, I got to ask, why would you mention Guardians of the Galaxy 3 just because they're in outer space? Outer space is very big, so I don't know if that, but I'm still going to take under 15%, but it ain't a goose egg. It's not a 0% because it is a few years down the line. So it's possible. Especially since you're just saying just a mention. Like, I would say 0% that Silver Surfer is in Guardians 3. That's a 0. A mention? It's possible. I'll still take under 15%, but there's a possibility there, Luke. Pool of Dead writes, "Do you prefer extended or theatrical Lord of the Rings?" I like them both, but I'm a theatrical release guy. I actually prefer the theatrical version, but I love the other one too. Pool of Dead also writes, "Is Infinity War in your top 10 comic book movies?" Yes. Yeah, Infinity War cracked my top 10. So yes, there you go. It is. Lone Wolf X6. I'm going to have to redo, because obviously the last time I did my top 10 favorite comic book movies was a year and a half ago, and a lot of good comic book movies have come out since then. So I'm going to have to revisit my top 10. But yeah, I believe Infinity War is in there. Let's see. Lone Wolf FX6 writes, "John, you have failed this city." Turns to John. "What did you do, Campea?" "John, I eat ketchup on eggs and I own a cat." Yeah, those are some mortal sins to me, Lone Wolf. Those are some absolute mortal sins to me. Julius Goodwin, who puts in a $20 super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel, Julius. I appreciate that, man, on that level. "I hate it when I hear people say, DC or other studios, that they want to make a movie." Let me try this again. "I hate it when hear people," you probably mean I hate it when I hear people say DC or other studios that want to make a movie universe say they need a Kevin Feige. Like, it's easy to find. His vision, genius, and experience are very rare at any level, let alone Hollywood. Okay, Julius, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Kevin Feige's don't grow on trees. You're not wrong about that. But successful, high-profile, critic-loving, fan-loving, and financially successful film universe franchises also don't grow on trees. They also don't grow on trees, right? If you want something that is rare and exceptional, like a successful across-the-board film cinematic universe, if you want something that rare, then you've got to get rare talent involved with running it. I mean, it's true. So I completely agree with you, Julius. It's difficult to find a Kevin Feige. But if you want One of the most exceptional things in the world, a fan successful, critic successful, and box office successful, living, thriving film cinematic universe. How many of those are there, really? Few. If you want one of those, then you have to find rare talents to make it happen. And so, while I agree we should not make it sound like it's easy, like, what DC needs is a Kevin Feige. Just go to 7-Eleven and grab a Kevin Feige. Here you can get 3 Kevin Feiges for the price of 2 right now at 7-Eleven. You're absolutely right. We shouldn't make it sound like it's just some easy, no-brainer thing to do. I agree. It is then, yet nonetheless, what you need to do. You do need to find somebody who's like that. And also, Julius, what I would suggest is that a lot of times when people say you need a Kevin Feige, which I have said before, and I say often, part of what that means is you need not a committee of 25 executives that all have equal say in what direction the cinematic universe goes. You need a single person with a single direction and a single unifying vision guiding the whole thing. Are they answerable to other people? Sure, but just as Kevin Feige is answerable to Alan Horn, who is answerable to the High Lord Bob Iger. Of course you do, but you got to have that one person in place that everything is running through that one guy who has the creative vision and talent and motivation and moxie and creative ambition to make something like that happen and work. And then you got to hope that the person, the guy or the girl you put in that position happens to have the same kind of creative genius and insight that a Kevin Feige has. Is it rare? Absolutely. But it is what you need. And we've seen what happens when film universes don't have that, right? We've seen what happens when film universes don't have that. They sputter, they underperform, some, like the DC universe, has some degree of success, but doesn't live up nearly to its potential. That's what happens. So, what we've got right now is a situation where you've got a Walter Hamada in charge over at DC, and they're hoping he is their Kevin Feige. And by the way, he's off to a good start. So, agree in the sense that, yeah, we shouldn't talk about getting a Kevin Feige like it's just some easy thing to do, but it is nonetheless what it is you need to do. Star Wars had its George Lucas. Indiana Jones had its George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. It's just what you got to have, and we'll see how that kind of evolves over time. Lone Wolf X6 writes, "Hey John, what if?" Just kidding, very funny. Julius Goodwin also follows up and writes, "If Endgame catches Avatar, and it's still an if, technically it is. I have a hard time. I was as skeptical. You guys know, I was as skeptical as anybody in the world that it would catch Avatar. I mean, we always knew it was a possibility, but I was as skeptical as anybody. But at this point, I don't see how it doesn't. But it is, until it happens, you're right, Julius, it is still an if. And it is still an if. Do you think James Cameron will make some sort of public statement about it, hopefully a gracious one? I think so. You know, what has become a really nice tradition in Hollywood is that when one movie has an opening weekend box office record and it gets beat by another movie, usually the movie that gets beat takes out an ad in Variety or something and does something really creative to say, congratulations, like when Jurassic World took over the opening weekend box office record. Congratulations to Jurassic World. And then Jurassic World got beat, so they put out a nice message to who beat them, and so on and so forth. It's a really nice tradition in Hollywood that I really like. And I hope that if and when Endgame does pass Avatar, it would be nice, because, by the way, when Cameron's had a record or two broken before as well, and they put out a nice, gracious message. But anyway, if Avatar gets beat for the all-time box office record, and by the way, today, as of this recording, right now, Endgame's already at $1.9 billion. It's only got another $800+ million to go. So it's well on its way. But if and when it catches Avatar, I believe Cameron should put out some kind of message like that, and I absolutely believe he will. I really do believe he will. So let's find that out. Good question, Julius. I like that. I'm Upset writes, saw The Intruder, worst film of the year so far, not hearing good things. Oh, poor Dennis Quaid, man. He needs to be in something really good. He's doing these stupid dog movies, and he's too good to be in stuff like this. Anyway, Lone Wolf writes, unfortunately, I won't be able to see Endgame till Tuesday. I've had to wait a while. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. I hope you've been able to stay mostly spoiler-free, but let me know what you think about it, man, once you go see it. Hey, listen, a lot of us envy you, man. None of us get to, or those of us who have seen it, we don't get to say we will never be able to watch Endgame for the first time again. You still do, so enjoy that, man. Doshi writes, John, rather watch Heroes than go on a date. I'm sorry, it was true. It was true. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, the other day I told a story about how I had this date set up that I had high hopes for, but my buddy brought over Heroes Season 1, and it was about 3/4 of the way through Season 1 on television already, and I hadn't started watching it. And my buddy said, you got to start watching. He brought over a disc, and I started watching it, and I couldn't stop watching it. I even canceled the date so I could stay home and keep watching it. Doshi writes, have you finished Spider-Man PS4? I have not. Actually, I haven't played it in months. You know, stupid. I got my PS4 controller right here. I got it all set up so I can play it on my computer, because I've got my PS4 in my bedroom, but I've got it connected to my computer out here too, so I can play it. And I've just never had time to sit down and play it. I am still, as of right now, I'm still 5%. It tells you the number. I'm still only 5% through the game. Doshi writes, I don't like Blade Runner either, John. You're not alone. Yeah, not many of us don't like the original Blade Runner. I admit. I know it's not the cool thing to say, but I admit I'm not one of them. J Meister 25 writes, Avengers Endgame is looking at a 42% drop, I know, from a 357 million domestic debut, and it made 500 million during the weekdays. This is unheard of. It didn't make 500 domestic during the weekdays. Be very, very clear about it. It didn't make 500 domestic, because the 357 is a domestic number. The 500 million is a worldwide number. So just to be clear about that. And that is nuts. A 42% drop for a movie that's this big. Crazy. Now, John, you might be saying, but John, you were saying 50 to 60, so why are you saying it's so amazing? 42 is only like 8% off. You got to understand, for a movie this big to be sub a 50% drop is crazy good. Like insanely good. The bigger a movie is, you know, on its opening weekend, well, most people saw it already, so you can expect a healthy drop-off second weekend. Not a tragic drop-off, but a good, understandable drop-off, 50 to 60%. For Endgame to only take a 42% drop, and we'll know for sure tomorrow afternoon sometime what that number actually is. But if it's even close to 40, hell, even if it's like 44% drop, that's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And I know it's tempting to say, well, it's only 6%, but you got to understand, when a movie's this big, to come in anywhere sub 50% of a drop-off is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. The bigger the opening weekend, the more impressive that second weekend drop-off becomes. Let's see. Where are we at? Why am I lost here? Where are we at? Okay, Jaron Morris just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jaron. Lone Wolf X6 writes, what master do you serve? What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus, you're from Earth. I'm not from Earth. I'm from Missouri. Yeah, that's on Earth, dipshit. Yeah, one of the great lines in Infinity War. I really do love that whole exchange. Actually, that whole scene. It's a short fight scene, but even though it's short, it's a great fight scene. You know, Star-Lord really shows off his chops in that fight scene. He takes out Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a really great scene, and that line is just one of the highlights. Of course, that's the same scene in which you get, why is Gamora? Which is also pretty cool, too. Let's see. Kian Shingler writes, wish me luck for Wednesday. I've been trying to get the great Robert Meyer Burnett to answer my questions and nearly achieved it on Tuesday. Need to get in sooner. I think you make great trio with Ashley as well. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoy. No, don't get me wrong. I love doing my solo shows. I do. I love doing open mic. I love my shows on Fridays when I give everybody else the day off. I loved it when I used to just do the John Campea Show solo. I love doing it. It's great. But there's something really cool when I can have the dynamic of having somebody else with a different point of view with a different background and a different set of experiences and a different set of expertise, like a Robert Meyer Burnett, to bounce off of, or Greg Alba, or whatever. And then, oh my God, you guys have no idea how much easier my life becomes having an Ashley Whalen here. Like, you might think it's not a big deal, but just the fact that when she's here, I would have had a 5 or 6, 7 second break for my voice. While instead of me reading, wish me luck for Wednesday, I've been trying to get the great Robert Meyer Burnett to answer my question, but well, like she would be reading that. I'm pausing. I can double check a fact or something like that. Give my voice just a momentary rest, reading all the pages of email questions and super chats come in. It just makes my life so much better. And to have somebody who's got as much on-camera charm as an Ashley Whalen to do it is great. It's great. You know what? The funny thing is, going back to my AMC days, people think reading questions or whatever is, oh, that's easy. Anybody can do that. No, they can't. You may think they can, and I understand why you think they can, but I am telling you what, I literally, during my time at AMC and onwards, I probably auditioned, without exaggeration, probably into the thousands of people for roles like that. And it would always included on-camera tests. And you would be shocked how few people actually do a good, personable, engaging read. You would be shocked. And everybody tells me, oh, no, John, that's not... You know what? When you've done it as long as I have, maybe I'll listen to your opinion on that. But I am telling you, that has been my experience. And to come across an Ashley Whalen, and again, I don't know how long Ashley's going to be with us. It's a big time commitment to coming here every day, and she has a very active modeling and acting career. So I don't know how much longer she's going to be with us, and hopefully whenever she does move on, I'm going to be able to find somebody who's close to as good as she is. But having those two in here has made it a lot of fun. It's made it a lot of fun. I'm not saying I like it more than doing it solo, but it's a different dynamic, and I just have a really good time with it. And there's a lot of advantages. So thanks for pointing that out, Kian. Kian follows up with, also watched Endgame last week. Upon second viewing, think actually it's a damn good movie. Still not in my top 3 though. Infinity War is. Yeah, it's not in my top 3 either. It is in my top 5 for MCU films. Endgame is my number 5 favorite MCU film. And that's saying a lot considering how many good MCU films there have been in the 22 that have come out. It's not in my top 5 overall comic book movies, but it's in my top 5 MCU. And it's a damn good movie. And if Act 1 and Act 2 were as good as Act 3, it might be one of the top 3 great, not just comic book movies. If Act 1 and Act 2 were as good as Act 3, it might be one of the top 3 greatest movies ever made, period. But it is, on its own, a damn good movie, Kian. All right, AG Systems 120 writes, could Blumhouse make a good and profitable FX-laden comic book flick with bus fare money? No. Or is this only applies to horror, drama, Upgrade was great? No, as soon as you say FX-laden, then the answer automatically becomes no. Because if you're going to have an effects, now you can do a superhero movie that's not heavy on visual effects, but if you are saying a FX-laden comic book flick, right there the answer is no. Because literally you need teams of hundreds and hundreds of people working for a year or longer with the types of facilities and equipment that is needed to do it and blah, 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 blah. All that kind of stuff automatically makes that no. Could Blumhouse do a very low budget, non-visual effects heavy kind of superhero film, kind of like a Daredevil from Netflix? Yeah, Blumhouse could do that. Heavy effects laden? Nope. No, unfortunately that can't be done. Not even Jason Blum can do that. All right. Ant Banks 1984 writes, who in your opinion was the better villain portrayal? Denzel Washington in Training Day or Wesley Snipes in New Jack City? Well, I'll tell you what, Denzel Washington got an Academy Award for that role, and for a reason. Hey, take nothing away from Wesley Snipes in New Jack City, but, Denzel Washington, King Kong ain't got nothing on me in Training Day, that was a hell of a performance. I mean, it just... So that's no shade on the Wesley Snipes one, but I'll take the Denzel one for sure. Grandmaster writes, when creators add sound to their movies, it is a natural thing to do because we also experience real life with sound. Same with adding color. Adding 3D is just the next logical step. No, it's not. No, it's not. I've heard that argument before, but that's been disproven 1,000 times. Because we perceive in 3D regardless. Like, because of my interaction with my natural world, when I'm looking at the screen, I am perceiving it in 3D because my brain already understands depth. My brain understands that. So when I see a guy standing close to the camera and there's a table way behind him, I already understand, my brain understands that there is that distance between them. I, quite frankly, have watched many movies in 3D. They're garbage. It's just a schlocky shtick, which is the reason. See, when sound came out, everybody adopted it. When color came out, everybody adopted it because that is how we perceive. It's not a perception thing. It becomes the actual experience thing. We need to hear it. We see in color. So we wanted to see color. So when sound came out as a technology, instantly adopted. When color came out in technology, everybody wanted it. When 3D came out in technology, everybody ditched. That's why, like, for a short time, every TV maker made 3D TVs. Now almost none of them do. It's just because everybody rejected it. So no, I firmly disagree with you. Hey, dude, that's your opinion. I respect your opinion. Your opinion is no less valid than mine. But from my point of view, I got to disagree with you on that. It's not the same thing. That is not an apples to apples comparison. And that's also not to say that you shouldn't enjoy 3D. If you're somebody watching this and you enjoy 3D, that's awesome. But to say it's the same conceptual type of thing as like when audio or color was added to our moving images, I reject that notion. And most people have rejected that notion, hence nobody bought 3D TVs. They died out quickly. All the manufacturer says these aren't selling. We're not even going to make them anymore. And now you have a hard time finding 3D enabled TVs. Unlike before, a number of years ago, you could hardly find a TV that wasn't a 3D enabled TV. Nobody bought them. It kind of went away. And that's why you don't see nearly as many films in 3D anymore, because just not as many people went to them. Like, it's funny, even like Endgame, when the Endgame tickets were starting to sell and all the theaters were packed, guess which theaters still had some tickets left? 3D theaters. Now, eventually those would sell out too, but they would be the last ones to sell out. Nobody wanted to go to that one. When I go to a press screening now, this is true. This happens all the time. Quite often we go to press screenings for a movie that will be in 3D. They'll have two theaters where the press screening is. And when we go and sign in with the studio rep, they'll say, do you want the non-2D or do you want the 3D or the non-3D option? The one that fills out, you can ask any publicist or any publicist from the studio side, any critic. When you ask them, which one fills up first? It's always the non-3D one that fills out first. Because it's not the natural thing, unlike color and audio. Our brain already perceives in 3D. So anyway, that's just my point of view. I am in no way trying to invalidate. If any of you enjoy 3D, it enhances your experience. That's awesome. And I'm glad you still have options available to you to enjoy it that way. But I'm just saying that that's not my experience. And the data, the unbiased data just kind of points towards that's not the way most people think. But then again, most people don't like Armageddon and I do. So it doesn't really matter what the majority thinks. It only matters how you experience it, my friend. All right. Christopher James writes, since Universal has the distribution rights to the Hulk, will those rights expire if they don't distribute a Hulk movie in a set amount of time? It's a good question, Christopher. The answer to that is no, and here's why. When a company has the production rights to a movie, quite often there will be a ticking clock that you have to be in production of a new movie in that franchise every 36 months, every 24 months, every whatever, right? Because you are in control of that. You're the production company. It's up to you when you go into production on the next installment of whatever that movie franchise is. You're in control of it. So there can be a ticking clock. Not all of those production deals have ticking clocks, but some of them do. Sometimes a lot of them do, but you're in control of that. With the distribution, it's different. Universal has no say because Universal is not the production company. Universal doesn't have a say on when a new Hulk movie goes into production. So Universal would never agree to having a ticking clock in their contract because no, I'm not going to agree to a ticking clock because I can only distribute the film if you make one. So our rights are going to be in perpetuity. There you go, in perpetuity. So no, that's not the nature of this deal. Now, there can be other details put into it and stuff like that, but no, that's not the thing there. Disney's just going to have to deal with this at some point if they want to do Hulk material. They're going to have to make a deal with Universal on some level. So we're just going to have to see how that goes. I'm Upset writes, what's worse, Dark Shadows, Mordecai, or Lone Ranger? I'm actually going to Mordecai on that. Dark Shadows was really bad, but it had some interesting stuff in it. And Lone Ranger, look, for the disaster that it was, it had some pretty fun elements to it too. I just thought Mordecai was an unmitigated train wreck, so I'm going to go Mordecai on that. Ryan Lohner writes, another fun early role, Jon Favreau as Eric the Clown in Seinfeld. I had no idea. I had no idea about that. Hold a second. let me go to YouTube here for a second. Just because. Now, normally this is something that I would wait until after the show, but I'm going to be totally unprofessional about this and just look this up now. Hold a second. Eric the Clown, Seinfeld. Hold a second. Let me see if I can find it. Was that actually Jon Favreau? Let me just see here for a second. I'm just sorry. I'm watching now. I shouldn't even... Oh my God, that is Jon Favreau. Oh my God, that is Jon Favreau. I didn't know that one. Thank you for sharing that, Loner. I got a big kick out of that. Joser Myers writes, may the 4th be with you. Thank you, man, and may the 4th be with you as well, my friend. Eric Saul, by the way, am I in the right spot? Yes. Eric Saul writes, if Joker became successful to launch the DC Black Label, do you think they will focus on villains or have a mixture of heroes and villains in standalones? The problem with... what other villains could you really do that would get the audience's attention other than the Joker? Really? I mean, what other ones could you do other than the Joker? Because I would propose to you that if they were doing this right now with a Penguin, I don't think the general audience would be all that interested. If they were to do Riddler, I don't know that the general audience would be all that interested. So, I don't know. Look, whenever anything is successful, of course it raises some potential for doing other things like that. So it's possible, I suppose, but I don't think they're going to focus on villains. I think they will focus on more of these Elseworld kind of ideas, but I don't know if they'll focus on villains because Joker is just like, is there any doubt Joker is the preeminent villain of the DC cinema, of anything in DC properties? Like, he is the king of all the villains, is he not? I would think he is. But that's something to look at. But I don't know, maybe you could do a Lex Luthor one. That would be another possibility one too, I suppose. Let's see here. Lone Wolf writes, instead of Chuck being the big bad, I thought it was going to be the Empty due to the deal he made with Castiel near the end. Well, if you notice in the last episode, the season finale, Jack ends up in the Empty. And then Death is there and says, we got to talk. So I think maybe you might be seeing an Avengers type of situation where Death, the Empty, Jack, Castiel, the Winchesters, everybody has to get on board to battle Chuck, which I think is absolutely idiotic and stupid. But I think you might be seeing that. So I might actually think you might end up seeing the Empty becoming an ally. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Jaron Morris writes, saw Endgame for the 11th time and I ran into two girls who were a little confused. I used some of your reasoning and logic explaining the movie better to them, and I left the room in the morning. Thanks. Yeah, that's a movie you could sit down and try to explain. You know what's funny? It's the more I think about it, this is a weird thing. The more I think about it, and I've still only seen it 4 times, the more I enjoy the movie. And yet at the same time, the more their convoluted plot holes bother me. Now you make me go, well, John, didn't you see that the Russos explained all the plot? Those were cop-outs. I listened to that. It was all cop-outs. There are just, because look, there's simple things. We wanted this. I'm not going to say what they are right now. We wanted this in the movie, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know, come up with something to make it make sense. Well, let's say when they do this, this happens instead. Yay, that fixes our problem. Come on, man, that's a cop-out. And it bothers me even more, and yet my enjoyment of the movie goes up even more. You know, I still go back to my original thing on this, Jaron. One of the things I put out on social media when I came out of the movie, or a couple days after I saw the movie, I've seen it twice by this point, and I said, I have never seen a movie, I've never enjoyed a movie with this many plot holes so damn much. And it's true, the movie's is littered with plot holes. And I get it, I've heard all these desperate attempts to explain them away, but those are all just cop-outs. And yet I still thoroughly enjoy this movie. I don't care. I thoroughly enjoy the movie, and that stuff didn't bother me, so it is what it is. Richard Karate writes, I'm confused. Daniel Craig's Bonds are prequels. No, not really. Are prequels, as in Casino Royale, he gets his 00 number for the first time, and Judith Dench is M, but she is M again in the Brosnan Bonds. So are they prequels too? No. I don't think of James Bond movies in terms of canon over the years. All right, because if that were the case, James Bond would be, 92 years old today, right? That's just not the way James Bond movies work. They don't follow canon the way that the MCU follows canon. As soon as Daniel Craig became Bond, it's a new Bond universe. Yeah, they'll still use the same actors and play, but it's just best to go into a Bond film, particularly when they switch out their Bonds. It's just good to go in and just forget about everything else. You know what I mean? So that's just I wish Robert was here to help answer that question, because he's more of a Bond guy than I am. I've clearly seen all the Bond films and I enjoy the Bond movies, but don't worry about it on that level, Richard. Just watch each individual movie for each individual movie. There is continuity in canon within the connecting movies when they have the same guy playing Bond, but whenever they switch Bonds, just reset your brain. Just reset your brain. I just find that that's best, Richard. Anyway, fair question though, man. Fair question. Jeffrey Hawley writes, John, when you went to the Endgame premiere, were you able to see or hear any reactions from the cast seeing it for the first time? Yeah, actually, Ann and I were only sitting a couple rows behind Chris Pratt. And then when the movie was over, we went down to the stage level where Paul Rudd and like a whole bunch of the cast were just sitting there. And I think one or two of them had seen cuts of the movie despite what was said in some of the press stuff, but I think a bunch of them didn't. And obviously they knew the movie because they acted in it, but to see it for their first time, yeah, they were all really happy. Let's see here. Marv Diesel writes, can't wait for the director's commentary on Endgame. Oh, me too. I love the director's commentary on Infinity War. Loved it. And I love that it was both the Russo brothers and the writers of the film as well. It gave it a little bit more of a perspective. I thought it was terrific. I enjoyed it tremendously, and I cannot wait for the director's commentary on Endgame as well. Richard Karate writes, thought on the Mask of Zorro. Oh, I really like the Mask of Zorro. I liked it a lot. One of my favorite scenes is still when Antonio Banderas, he's starting to learn how to become Zorro, right? And he's there with Anthony Hopkins, and Antonio Banderas is, and Anthony Hopkins is just, and knocks the sword out of him. Great moment. Now, the second Zorro movie that they did with Antonio Banderas was god-awful. But I actually get a big kick out of that first one. I think it came out in like 97, 98, 99, something like that. I actually really enjoyed that movie. Lone Wolf writes, John and Robert, well, Robert's not here, obviously, on the weekends. Tell me, what do you truly desire? Hashtag Lucifer. Lucifer is back, baby, this week. I am... It's funny, Ann and I were driving into Hollywood last night, and we were going to this friend's birthday party. And there was this big Lucifer billboard right down near Sunset. And I can't even begin, and I realized, oh my God, it's this week. I cannot even begin to tell you the amount of pure joy that rushed into my body just knowing that Lucifer is back this week. I didn't even realize I was that excited about its return. I am so freaking pumped about the return of Lucifer. I just cannot wait. May 8th, I believe. So what is it today? Today's the 4th, so 5th, 6th, 7th. So Wednesday? I guess Wednesday it comes out? Oh my God. I'm so stoked for this. I love this show so much. Thank you, Netflix, again, for saving this show. Dante Redgrave writes, over under 12%, the Fast and Furious goes in outer space in 9 or 10. I'll tell you what, 12's a real low number. I'm going to take the over. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if you're going to set the action down at 12%, I'll take that action and I'll go over. Dominic Suma writes, over under 25%, chance we see Joss Whedon direct another Avengers movie. I personally would love to see his take on Strange, Spidey, Black Panther, etc. You know what? I'm going to alter the question a bit, Dominic. I'm going to take the over 25% that will see him direct an MCU movie again. I'll take the over on that because we've seen in the last year or so Joss Whedon getting reconnected with the MCU. He's been showing up to the premieres. He was part of the director's roundtable. He's just been getting more and more involved with the MCU again. And I know one of the things that Kevin Feige used to love to do with Joss is to fly him out to the sets of different MCU movies going on and help punch up the script a little bit. And they love doing. I think I will now. Whether it'll be a specific Avengers movie, I don't know. But if we alter your question a bit to, will we see him direct another MCU movie, be it Avengers or something else? Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'll take the overall over 25% on that. Hold on a second there. Just had the big jump. Where are we at here? There's Richard Cry, thought of Mask of Zorro. Here we go. Ron Santes Henderson. And Santes Henderson writes, I always had a thought that Vader didn't care much for the Death Star. He said its power doesn't mean much next to the Force, and he wasn't involved in its construction. I agree. I never got the feeling that he thought it was all that important to do, and it was all that big of a deal. But I'm also sure he probably liked having it handy at the same time, but I don't disagree with you, Santes. I think that he made that pretty clear. And in the novels, by the way, there's more insight into that. I think Vader, in the novels, particularly the Thrawn novels, Thrawn and Vader become uneasy allies. And at one point, in the novels, and I'm oversimplifying this, but see, Grand Admiral Thrawn, he thought investing all the resources of the Empire into a TIE interceptor program, which would have given them massive combat superiority over the rebellion. He thought that was the more worthy thing to put their resources in instead of one big giant battle station. Because if somebody blows up the one battle station, well, then there goes your entire investment. And I believe, if I remember the novels right, I believe Vader actually sided with him on that. I think they saw that the better call was to invest in a TIE interceptor development program that just would have made their Navy vastly superior to the Rebellion's Navy. Anyway, as history goes, the Emperor opted to go with the sided with Tarkin and went with the Death Star approach, and it didn't work out. But anyway, I believe you're right, Santes. I believe you're right. Santes follows up, always seemed like it was the Emperor's idea only. Well, no, it wasn't the Emperor's idea, but it was the one that the Emperor got behind. It's the one the Emperor supported. And the rest is history. If only he had listened to Vader and Thrawn. Okay. Zach Lozelle just sent a super chat. Thank you, Zach. Eddie Burton writes, what's going on with the movie Ad Astra with Brad Pitt? Literally comes out in 3 weeks and no trailer or poster or promotion of any kind. Yeah, that's come up almost every day now lately, Eddie. And I think it's pretty clear that movie is not hitting its release date. I think that's clear at this point. Like, I'm all for not putting out trailers like 5 months in advance, but we're like 3 to 4 weeks away from the movies coming out and no marketing of any kind. I think it's pretty clear it's not going to make its release date unless, and this isn't likely, but bear with me here. Unless they're adopting a Robert Meyer Burnett kind of philosophy of just don't put out any trailers. And remember, Robert didn't think Endgame needed to put out any trailers for the movie. Clearly, Disney did, and they spent a record amount of money on their marketing, and look what the results were. But maybe Ad Astra is taking it, nope, no trailers. We're not going to put anything into marketing. We're just going to drop it in theaters. I don't think that's what's happening, and I think we're within a few days now of finding out that Ad Astra gets pushed. Now, I haven't got any inside information on that. I'm just speculating, looking at the information in front of us like you guys are. So who knows? But I'm thinking this week we're going to hear an official word that Ad Astra has been pushed. Thomas Dixon writes, getting married tonight, which, oh my God, Thomas, good luck, man. First of all, thank you for sticking your nose in here while you're getting married later today. I hope you have a great day, man. I hope you and your bride have a marvelous, memorable day for the ages. Have a good one, man. Best of luck to both you and your spouse, your upcoming spouse, for the life that you have in front of you guys. Good luck and have a great day. Jeff Crowe writes, how's your TV Oh, you mean table. How's your TV / Dungeons and Dragons table coming along? Okay, for those of you who don't know, I've got this giant 65-inch TV that I no longer use. I took it down and put it up. I got a new TV, a bigger one to put up above the fireplace, right? So I've just had this 65-inch TV just sitting around. I've got nowhere to put it. I got nothing to do with it, so I don't know what to do with it. My friend who is a set designer for the movie industry, he was over. He's in my Dungeons and Dragons group, and he had this idea. He goes, dude, let me design a table with your 65-inch TV as the centerpiece in the table. We'll build a table around it, and it becomes the desktop of the table. And you can have images and everything up on it as we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So it's still in the design phase. He's making some tweaks in the design, and then I'm going to get it built. So I'm very excited. I'll share pictures with it with you guys when it finally gets done. Richard Karate writes, save or kill one. You can save one is erased from existence forever. What do you save, Incredibles or Toy Story? Ooh. Man. I'll save Toy Story. It hurts to do it, but I got 3 amazing Toy Story films. I've only got 2 amazing Incredibles films. So simply on the numbers alone, I'm going to go Toy Story. That's a Sophie's choice, Richard. That's a Sophie's choice. Richard writes, save or kill Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. By Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones. But Lord of the Rings all day, every day. Richard Karate, save or kill Dexter or Lucifer. I mean, it's hard because Dexter had a bad ending. You know, I think everybody, even the most hardcore of Dexter fans. So it's hard not to have my overall thought on that colored by the fact that it had a bad ending, but I love the rest of the show. And right now I'm in the midst of getting Lucifer. So you know what? I'm going to take a pass on that because it's not a fair comparison because Lucifer ain't done yet. It very well I could keep Lucifer, but I don't know that yet. So I'm gonna have to take a push on that one, Richard. Darius Roussel writes, hey John, isn't it great that 3 out of 4 superhero films next year are being led by women? Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and Black Widow. I am very much looking forward to 2 of those. Obviously Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 84, and we've got a Black Widow movie coming. To me, Birds of Prey is still one that I'm a little bit iffy on. I'm iffy on Birds of Prey. That being said, back to the original question, it is great. It's the first time ever that we're going to have a year where the majority of superhero movies released that year are women instead of men. I think that's great because we've had this agenda in Hollywood for decades that women can't lead movies, only men can. And to see that type of practical change, we're like, oh, look, we're actually going to get a year where the majority of women led. I think it's great. Doesn't mean the movies are going to be great. I'm questioning Birds of Prey. I got a lot of faith in Wonder Woman 84 because of Patty Jenkins. We'll see if the Black Widow one works out. But I think it's great that we're finally going to get one year. It's kind of nice that we're finally getting one where that's the case. Jorge Lizadell just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jorge. Appreciate that, man. By the way, guys, I'm just going to take a couple more questions. And then I'm going to take a short 5-minute break because just to give my voice a chance to loosen up, and I'm also going to refill my drink. So we're going to take a few more though, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break. The McDougal Bugle writes, with media becoming exclusive to streaming, will studios retcon movies for continuity, like put Cheadle as Rhodey in Iron Man 1 or fix 8 years later in Spider-Man Homecoming? I don't know, it's possible. But look, nothing is stopping them from doing that now. Right? Nothing's stopping them from doing that now. George Lucas did it with the Star Wars special editions. I mean, yeah, now the only one you can get is special editions, but everybody who had already owned Star Wars on VHS or had a DVD of it still owns it. So could we see that become a growing thing? It's possible. My argument is there's nothing stopping them from doing that now. Like, as of right now, nothing is stopping Disney Plus from putting out a slightly retconned version of Iron Man 3 on Disney Plus streaming if they wanted to. Now, you would still have your Iron Man 3 Blu-ray at home if you had it, but nothing's stopping Disney from doing that now if they want. So I don't know, because why would you invest a lot of money into something that it doesn't really matter moving forward? So I don't know. Maybe, but also because it's not just because of streaming though, it's also the technology is advancing that it makes it easier for them to do that. So I got a feeling we're going to see a slight bump in that, but I just think most studios will go, it's not necessary to do it. And even if we do get a slight bump in that, I think that little bump might have been coming anyway because the technology is making it easier for them to do, and it's not like it's something they couldn't do now anyway. So I don't think that the streaming aspect of it is going to be a major culprit in that. Maybe a contributing factor, but not the major one. At least that's my thought on that. Ian Buck writes, how successful will my Packers be this season? I don't know, man. I don't know. I got my doubts. Look, I've never thought that you guys have had the best quarterback in the world. Now, do not get me wrong. Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a talented quarterback. But if you look at a Tom Brady, every 2 to 3 years has a completely different team than the team he had 2 to 3 years ago. And he's almost never surrounded by superstars. Almost never surrounded by superstars. You know, I mean, he's had Gronk, but Gronk's, even when he's been out with all of his injuries, he wins. He had Moss for a couple years, but then he didn't have him. For the most part, he just makes people look like superstars, and he's had like almost 7 or 8 completely different teams around him over the years. And he just consistently wins with no matter who he's got around him. With almost no matter who he's got around him, he wins. Aaron Rodgers has got all the weapons. He's got, as a quarterback, he has all the weapons. He does. But I will still take a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning under center for my money, because Aaron Rodgers seems very, very limited in his ability to win depending on what he's got around him. I mean, there are many years that, you know, he doesn't even make the playoffs. He's got 1 ring, which is great. That's more than most quarterbacks do. And this year, there's been reports of locker unhappiness, locker room unhappiness, some division in the locker room. They just had their coach turn over. We've been hearing a little bit more about Aaron Rodgers is all about Aaron Rodgers, and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to like a Tom Brady who's like, hey, I'll take pay cuts. I don't need to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. I don't even need to be the highest paid guy on the team. I'm about my team and my team winning. That's what I'm about. Everything we're hearing coming out this year has been very unflattering about Aaron Rodgers. And now a new coach. I don't know. But when you have a quarterback who is as naturally skilled as Aaron Rodgers is, because he's got all the weapons, man. He's got them all. He's got much better footwork than Tom Brady does. For example, he's much better on his feet than Tom Brady is. He's got all the natural weapons. When you have a guy that is just that naturally talented, it's hard to rule him out. But honestly, I don't even know that they make the playoffs this year. I don't know. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying I won't be surprised if they don't. It might be a tough 1 or 2 rebuild years as they get used to a new coach. We'll see what happens there. Vince Carter of Mars writes, my theater doesn't have assigned seating, so when we saw Endgame opening night, one of my friends had to sit by himself. It's 2019. Get assigned seating. No kidding. And I bet Vince Carter of Mars, not only did your friend have to go off and sit by himself because there was no pre-assigned seating, I bet you money you had to show up to that theater hours early just to stand like an idiot in line. My life is ticking away. These are seconds of my life I will never get back. I'm going to spend 3 hours just standing here in line for no reason whatsoever, all because this movie theater still lives in the dark ages and refuses to do a very simple thing and get pre-assigned seating put in their theaters. It's not the dark ages anymore, people. Vince, write a letter to your theater chain and say, why is this the case? Why are you taking away from my movie-going enjoyment by not doing something as simple as having pre-assigned seating? It's not the Dark Ages anymore, damn it. I'm sorry your friend had to do that, Vince. Daniel Atrill writes, hey, John, big fan. Have you seen V for Vendetta? Of course I have. Remember. Yeah, I really enjoy V for Vendetta. I really do. I got a big kick out of that movie. Watching Natalie Portman shave her head, I was like, what? Anyway, yes, I do enjoy that movie. I've seen it and I enjoy it quite a bit. Pedro Augusto Marquez writes, I'm 21. I don't know a world where James Cameron isn't on top of the box office, but I think I will soon. Yep. You know, it's weird. Not only, wrap your head around this. As of this moment, this is about to change, but as of this moment, the top 2 highest grossing worldwide box office movies in the world are both James Cameron movies. Let that sink in. That's nuts. Now, Titanic is about to get passed and then probably Avatar as well. But as of right now, it's the top 2. It is crazy. James Cameron's just been on top of the world for a very long time. King of the world! Anyway, Timothy Platt writes, does your initial opinion differ when a movie is originally picked up by Netflix versus starting as another studio before being dumped? Yes. I'm completely open-minded, and I should be open-minded all the way across the board. Like I said earlier, it's not fair that I'm thinking this way, but it is what it is. When a movie starts as a Netflix project, I have there's no negative baggage attached to that. When a movie is just being produced and then they shop it around to studios and no studio wants to pick it up and then it ends up on Netflix, that to me sends off some red flags, right? Because that's a Cloverfield, what was that the sci-fi Cloverfield, I can't remember the name of it, it was so stupid and awful. The one in outer space, it was supposed to be a theatrical release. And then Paramount dumped it on Netflix because they knew it sucked and they knew no one's probably going to go see this. And sure enough, they put it on Netflix. Netflix made a big deal out of it and the movie sucked. That movie sucks. Anyway. So yeah, Timothy, and again, that may be completely unfair of me. I'm admitting that. That may be completely unfair, but it is my initial reaction. I have a different opinion about a movie that starts off as a Netflix project versus one that ends up getting dumped on Netflix. And maybe that's not fair, but it is kind of the way my head works on that right now. Casinema Reviews writes, if Endgame got Best Actor awards, who gets them? Well, it shouldn't. But if it did, probably Robert Downey Jr., if it did. I could also see in a universe that a Karen Gilliam gets a nomination for her portrayal as Nebula. I thought she was great as Nebula. I thought she was outstanding. Personally, nobody gets the Best Acting nomination out of this movie, but that's not to say there weren't some very good performances. There were. Best Actor, like Oscar level? No. But if any, probably Robert Downey Jr., Karen Gilliam. All right. Richard Karate writes, save or kill Indiana Jones or Han Solo? Well, Han Solo means killing out the Star Wars movies, so by Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones, but that's not even something I have to consider. A fan of Peanuts writes, hey John, what's your order of favorite Iron Man films? Well, there's 3. My favorite one is the first Iron Man. My second favorite one is Iron Man 3, and Iron Man 2 is the closest thing the MCU has come to making a bad movie. Iron Man 2, to me, is without question the worst of the MCU movies. Now, I'm not saying the movie's terrible, but it's easily the least good out of any of the MCU films, so that's how I would probably order them. Toro Hill just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Toro. Alex Spur writes, just wondering if you're a Westworld fan. It's my favorite show. I can't wait for the 3rd season. Not really. I watched season 1, and it had some magnificent episodes, but also a number of episodes that was just a waste of time to watch. But overall, I enjoyed season 1, so I was looking forward to season 2. Season 2 started, and through the first 2 episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, I like Westworld season 2 even better than season 1. But then I found Westworld season 2 just didn't go anywhere. And I'll be honest with you, I think I may have tapped out. I think I might have tapped out on Westworld. I don't know if I'm going to watch season 3. Like, I eventually tapped out on Legends of Tomorrow because I didn't watch anything this season. I may have tapped out on Westworld as well. Look, when Westworld is on, they had some episodes that are just like, oh my God, this is some of the best sci-fi television ever. And then they had some really bad ones. So I don't think, I'm certainly not a Westworld hater, but I don't think I'd qualify myself as a Westworld fan either. But you're not alone, Alex. I know a number of people who really, really love that show, man. Really, really love that show. Jorge Lizadel writes, could Bran be the one, the real bad? NK, NK probably means Night King. Felt a tool. I doubt it. I don't think so. There's only 3 episodes left. I don't think they're going to throw a major curveball like that. I think now the show, there are some people complaining, how can you end the White Walker story so early? There's only 3 episodes left. And look, this show was never about the White Walkers. This show's about the Iron Throne. That's what Game of Thrones is about. Has been from episode 1. It's about the Game of Thrones. And now they get to focus for the last 3 episodes on that. But then again, I don't know that we've seen the last of the Night King or the White Walkers. I don't know anything. I'm just guessing here. We'll find out shortly. Let's see. Fine Wen writes, guilty pleasure, Virtuosity with Crowe and Washington. Man, I saw that years ago. How do you even remember that one? That one didn't make any money either. Hold on a second. I'm going to pull up some information on... Yeah, that was like 23 years ago? 23 years ago? With that, Kelly Lynch was in that one too, and it was... why don't I just look? Hold on a second. As I say, I think it was directed by Leonard, but where the hell is it? Director, Brent Leonard did direct it. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I can see why you're saying guilty pleasure, because not my favorite Russell Crowe or Denzel Washington movie. So I could totally see why you're applying the phrase guilt. I've got a number of movies like that, man, that I wouldn't be proud of. Yeah, guilty pleasure. Armageddon, for example, totally guilty pleasure of mine. Nice one. All right, you know what, guys? I'm going to take a 5-minute break here. Just 5 minutes. I'm going to go rest my voice for a minute, refill my drink. I will be right back. If anybody comes along wondering, hey, where's the show? Just let them know. We'll be back on in 5 minutes. So we'll be right back. I'll be back in just a moment. I'll see you in a second. All right, and we are back, guys. Thank you so much for indulging me as I took a little quick break there. Got myself and my drink all kind of refilled. Fantastic. And now we are ready to go with the rest of the questions here. Sorry, just sprinted up the stairs because I knew I only had like 10 seconds left. Okay. Ernie Morales writes, in your opinion, which actor did a better job directing their first feature film, and who had the better beard? John Krasinski in A Quiet Place or Bradley Cooper in A Star is Born? Two different films, I know. Well, here's the thing. A Quiet Place was not John Krasinski's first feature film. Let me just double check that to make sure. But John Krasinski actually directed at least one other feature film before that. So let me just pull up his information here just to make sure. Yeah, actually, he's got 5 directing credits. I mean, he directed a few episodes of The Office. He did a movie called The Haulers, which actually had, who was in that with him? Charlton Copley, that's what I was saying. Richard Jenkins was in that with him. He had himself. Anna Kendrick was in that, all that kind of stuff. So he did that one, and then he did A Quiet Place after that. So I would actually say, so really what we're doing is comparing John Krasinski's The Haulers compared to Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born. So I'm going to have to say Bradley Cooper did the better job with his first directorial effort. I'm going to give the nod to him on that. Now, I think Quiet Place is the better movie, but that wasn't John Krasinski's first directorial effort. This was Bradley Cooper's, and I'll give the beard nod to Bradley Cooper on that one as well. Or good question though, man. Good question. All right, next one comes to us from Patrick Conway, who writes, over under 30%, Lucasfilm scraps Indiana Jones 5 and reboots Young Indiana Jones series with Harrison Ford on Disney Plus. Man, if you hadn't added in that Harrison Ford part, I would have easily taken the over 30%, because the longer this thing goes, the greater the chance. Of course, we just found out they're getting another rewrite on the Indiana Jones script, so there goes that. That means they're not even going to start shooting this movie till Harrison Ford's 77 years old. Literally, he's going to be 77 by the time they start shooting this movie. I think every day that passes increases the chances that they just scrap it and then eventually just reboot Indiana Jones. So, but if you're going to add in there that Harrison Ford joins it for Disney Plus with a young indie series, I'm going to go under 30. If you didn't put in that Harrison Ford part, I'd take the over 30 on that. All right, Toro Hill writes in, hey John, I think Tom Hardy should be the first choice for the MCU to play Wolverine. What do you think? I can just see Hardy with a cigar in his mouth saying, let's go, bub. Toro, I don't like taking... John, do you think X actor could play X role? I don't like those questions, to be honest with you, because my overall answer is always, I don't care. I don't care. Now, if you're asking me, would he be a decent choice? Sure. But I also think there's 30 or 40 other actors that I could probably list off the top of my head that would also be good, solid choices. Right? Again, nobody ever would have thought this song and dance Broadway guy named this Aussie named Hugh Jackman would be a good Wolverine. Nobody thought he would be, except for Bryan Singer, apparently. And now we can't imagine anybody other than that. So, look, all I care about is, do you put a talented actor in the role? That's all I care about. I don't care if they're a well-known person. I don't care if they're a no-name. I don't care about any of that stuff. Are they a talented actor? Period. End of sentence. Tom Hardy's a good actor, so sure, I'd be fine with him as Wolverine. But there's about 20 or 30 other guys I would be as well. So that's kind of my thought on that, Toro. Richard Karate writes, do you think Sony making Venom 2, Craven, and Morbid? You probably mean Morbius. Do you think they'll make a cinematic universe culminating at a Craven, Venom, and Morbius versus Sinister Six? I see them creating a cinematic universe, yes. Fortunately, Sony seemed to have learned the lesson of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 of don't just use your movie to build your cinematic universe. And so Venom really stayed focused on Venom. But if Morbius works, and that's a big if, but they got Jared Leto in it, so that's a good step forward. If Morbius works like Venom worked, and then if Craven works like those two hopefully work, then they've got a great foundation for a cinematic universe. Do I see them versus Sinister Six? No, probably not. I think Sony is still licking their wounds a little bit, Richard, from trying to build an instant Sinister Six in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they might shy away from Sinister Six a little bit. But I can see, I don't see why you need other villains. I think you can just have, considering the nature of the character of Kraven, Venom, and Morbius, I think you could just have a cinematic universe of those three. I think you could have a Morbius versus Kraven versus Venom movie. I really do. I don't think you need to do Sinister Six, but I do believe they are building towards, they're hoping they can build towards a cinematic universe, but they know they had to get a winner first with Venom, and they did. Now they got to get a winner with Morbius, and then they need a winner with Kraven. We'll see how that goes. Bumblebee writes, favorite Star Wars moment, may the 4th be with you. Whoo! I know this answer is more of a scene, but my all-time favorite Star Wars scene is the Emperor's throne room in Return of the Jedi. To me, that is the greatest moment and scene in maybe cinematic history, particularly in the Star Wars universe. That to me is the best one. It's a combination of the drama, the characters, the music that played, like the music that's playing on that scene. That's amazing. That's my all-time favorite. And may the 4th be with you as well, Bumblebee. Edgar S. writes, no Jar Jar Binks trailer yet. Should we be worried? I think I think so, Edgar. I think we can start to be a little suspicious. I think we can start to be a little bit suspicious. Dirk Diggler writes, pardon me. Yes, Knuckles, Amy Rose, Shadow are Sonic Universe characters. I did not know that. But my remark is in retrospect to the Sonic movie director making changes built upon the internet response to the trailer. Yeah, we had a big discussion about that the other day, Dirk, and thanks for following up on that. I appreciate that very much, because I had no idea what we were talking about. Sorry, my throat's a little bit wrecked, guys. We went in depth on this the other day. I'm of two minds. Number one, directors and filmmakers should never change what they've decided to do with the movie because of public reaction to a trailer or to a casting or anything. You're the filmmakers. Terry the bus driver is not. I don't care what Terry the bus driver or John the YouTuber says about it. You're the director. You're the filmmakers. Make your decision and go. We'll be happy with it or not like it, whatever, but you go and do your thing. And then see how the movie turns out. And see how people respond. Everybody hated the announcement of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Hated it. There was so much uproar. He's 6'1". You're going to get a song and dance man to play Wolverine. That was a lot of people. But they stuck with it, and they did their movie, and now everybody loves Hugh Jackman. When Heath Ledger got cast, oh my God. Some people try to rewrite history and pretend like there wasn't that big of it. No. It was massive. People hated the casting of of Heath Ledger as Joker. They hated it. You're getting Brokeback Mountain pretty boy as the Joker? Blah, change him. He's not my Joker. Change it. Petition started. Get rid of Heath Ledger. Blah, blah, blah. What did Christopher Nolan do? Christopher Nolan doesn't care what Terry the bus driver thinks about his casting decision. That's his decision. He made it, and he made his movie with it. Now we can't imagine it any otherwise. Did the Sonic the Hedgehog design look good? No. But guess what? No Sonic the Hedgehog design is going to look good. Sorry, but just prep yourself for that. In a live action movie, there is no design you can do for Sonic the Hedgehog that's going to look good. It's going to look utterly absurd regardless. It just is. Could it be better than the one they gave us? Yeah, it could be better than the one they gave us, but just because the internet and Terry the bus driver goes, this is a horrible design for Sonic. If you're the filmmaker and you'd made that decision, stick with it and then just play the movie and see how it works out. That's one side of my mind. The other side of my mind, and also understand this, them changing the design of the character is not going to make this movie 1 ounce better or 1 ounce worse. Just understand that. Just be prepared for that. Anyway. On the other side of my brain is, considering the rigging and the animation is probably already done for the character, and all you got to do is replace the model on top of the rigging and the animation, and then just re-render it. It's probably not that big a deal to do. And if it's not that big of a deal to do, then why not do it? So that's the two sides of my brain on this. The one side is, hell no, dangerous precedent. Don't cave into what Terry the bus driver wants you to do. You're the professional filmmaker. You do your movie and then let the chips fall where they may. Take the win or take the loss, but make it on your vision, not what Terry the bus driver screams on Twitter. The other side of my brain is, it's not that big of a deal to change it. It probably wouldn't take that much time. Just come up with the new model, put the model on top of the rigging, and then let it go. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I'm a little bit torn on it, to be honest with you. Aaron Rose writes, where'd Aaron go? There he is. Aaron Rose writes, hey, John, greetings from Tennessee. I love Tennessee. Got a couple of friends that live there. Go out and visit once in a while. Been watching you since the AMC days, but this is my first super chat. Well, thanks for sending it in, Aaron. I appreciate the support, man. May the 4th be with you and keep bringing the filthy. Thank you so much. Yeah, I got a buddy... good friend of mine from Canada named Jeff. And Jeff is, he's a lighting designer. Jeff, let me just tell a little personal story here. So my buddy Jeff, yeah, he lived in Welland, Ontario, the Rose City. Anyway, and he started doing lights for little concerts, right? He would do the lights, operate lights for little concerts. And then he just bought some of his own lights. And then people would hire him not just to run the lights, but to bring in his lights. And then he bought more lights and more lights and more lights. Now, Jeff owns his own big company in Nashville, where he has warehouses full of gear and equipment. He designs big light shows of the biggest concert tours in the world. And he has like 5 or 6 or 7 of like rigs of his out on tour at any given time. And he's just one of the most successful guys in the business. Amazing. I love getting down there and visiting him. Then I got another friend who lives just outside Tennessee or outside of Nashville, and beautiful place. But anyway, Aaron, thank you for sending that in, and I appreciate it. I'm glad that you're here, man. And my wife just walked in. So she's wondering why. Well, I'm not going to say this on the air. Anyway, Julius Goodwin writes, no one ever talks about Gone with the Wind's box office, which reports say is the true number 1, adjusted for inflation. It made, get your Dr. Evil voice, $7.4 billion. Well, first of all, Julius, that comes up all the time. That comes up all the time. It's always talked about. I do not believe we ever should take inflation into consideration. And I've given my argument on this more than a dozen times. Let me just give you the quick little short version is this. Inflation is a variable. It is a variable. However, there are like 10 other variables as well. And you can't just cherry pick which variable you want to apply to the equation. You can't just take the one variable and ignore all the others. The best way to look at it is just look at even sum, which is take none of the variables into consideration, just on the face value, what is the amounts. That's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you have to start taking into account a bunch of other a lot more tricky variables to take into consideration. There were things when Gone with the Wind came out, there were challenges, mountains, obstacles, pitfalls that movies today have to deal with that Gone with the Wind never had to deal with. Whether it's how many movies came out at a time. Gone with the Wind had a much easier time than movies today, because today you got like 500, 600, 700 wide release movies coming out every year. Hitting theaters in different places and around the world, coming from all different countries and blah, blah, blah. You didn't have nearly the amount of competition for the entertainment dollar. Gone with the Wind didn't live in an era where there were 500 channels on television that people could stay home or watch. Gone with the Wind never had to deal with people spending their money on video games for their entertainment instead of going to the movies that other movies do. You know, it's just, there's a dozen other variables. And my argument has always been, you can't just take one variable and then ignore the other ones. You either take them all or you ignore them all. So believe me, Julius, that topic with Gone with the Wind comes up all the time. I hear it all the time. And rightfully so, it's interesting. But it's not the true number 1. The true number 1 is the face value number 1. Right now, that's Avatar. Right now, that's Avatar. It's soon to be Endgame. And if you want to take all the variables into consideration and do a lot of advanced mathematics to figure it out, that's fine. My argument has just always been you can't just cherry pick the one variable that you can wrap your head around, and therefore let's apply that one. I disagree with that. So I've always, and I'm in the minority on that. I'm fine on that. I'm perfectly comfortable being in the minority with that. I just think that's the way that makes most sense. That's just my opinion, though. Other people have different opinions. All right, Garrett Couch writes, Wes Anderson movies. Is it a colossal joke I'm not getting? It's just quirky people talking like they're on Valium. Never could get through a movie. Am I not in on the joke? It weirds me out. Hey, no, listen. First of all, I don't think every Wes Anderson movie is Shakespeare like some people do. But he's got a number of movies that I really enjoy, like a lot. But Wes Anderson is kind of like Tim Burton in a way, that he's got a particular style to his movies. And because all films are subjective, that style isn't going to be for everybody. It's just not going to work for everybody. Like, you can watch Royal Tenenbaums and laugh your guts out, right? But at the same time, let me just bring something up here. Which came out in 2000. One of Gene Hackman's last movies, as a matter of fact. God, I love that. I love Gene Hackman. But you can pull out a Royal Tenenbaums, and that can hit you as like a profoundly great movie. That movie was nominated for Academy Award, was nominated for Best Screenplay. Some people thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture. But it is, without any question, a very distinct, unique style. That's what Wes Anderson brings to his movies, that particular style. And if that style doesn't work for you, you're going to have a hard time watching any of his movies. Just like I believe Tim Burton has a very particular style to his movies, and if that style doesn't work for you, a lot of his movies are going to fall flat for you. So it's not that you're missing the joke, Garrett. It's just that films are subjective. They hit us all in different ways. And if his particular style, which works very well for some people, if it doesn't work for you, then there's a very low percentage chance that you're going to enjoy any of his movies because he always brings that style. He's not like a Steven Spielberg who can make 10 movies and each one of them will be completely different from the other. He can do a Ready Player One and then he can do a Lincoln. Then he can do an E.T. and then he can do a Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, he can do like these radically different films. Wes Anderson has a particular thumbprint, and if that thumbprint doesn't work for you, so there's nothing wrong with you, Garrett. It's not that you're missing the joke. It's just that his style doesn't work for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, David J. Lloyd writes, I wish Cap said, news team assemble, but I'll live. That, seriously, one of the great Anchorman moments. News team assemble. God, I love Anchorman. I could talk Anchorman all day. I love that movie. Where are we at here? Bob Lewis writes, Cardiff City relegated from the Premier League to the Championship after 1 year in the top flight of English football. I am sad. Dude, I'll be honest with you. First of all, I love the Premier League system. I do. I think it's great. I think more professional sports teams should look at that. That if you qualify, you get in the Premier League. And if you finish in last in the Premier League, you get out and you're not in the Premier League next year. I love that system. I think it's great. I think the NFL should adopt it, add like 10 more teams, have a Premier Division and then a lower level division. If you win the championship in the lower level division, you get to go up to the Premier Division. If you finish last in the Premier Division, you go down to the you get relegated down. I love it. But I don't follow soccer enough, so I'll be honest with you. I don't even know who Cardiff City is. I admit it. I'm sorry. It's not. I watched the World Cup only because, when Italy's in it, and they weren't even in it this year. But other than that, I don't know a lot about soccer. Quizada writes, the only alien movie I've ever seen was Prometheus. Ooh, no. You are missing out, my friend. But also, I'm a little bit jealous. You get to go back. I think Aliens, the sequel. Like, there's Alien, and then there's Aliens. Aliens is the sequel. The first one's fabulous. The second one, to me, is my second all-time favorite action film. Just next to True Lies. It is outrageously fantastic. And the fact that you've never watched it just means you get to go back and watch it. And I'll tell you this too, you don't have to watch the first Alien to watch Aliens. All you need to know is a little bit about the first movie, and then you can just go in and watch Aliens if you want. But if you feel like watching the first one, which is a great movie on its own right, and the first Alien and the second one are very, very different films. But anyway, I envy you, but do go back and watch those because they're both infinitely better than Prometheus. Richard Karate writes, save or kill Seinfeld or Friends? Oh, look, I really appreciate Friends. I do very, very much, but that's no question. Seinfeld. You keep Seinfeld. It's arguably the greatest sitcom of all time. Altan writes, just for fun, since Ray and Arya are the same movie, does it make Arya Ray's mom? Arya is nobody after all. Just for fun, since Rey and Arya share the same move. I see. So I thought I said movie there for a second. Share the same move. Does it make Arya Rey's mom? Does it make Arya Rey's mom? Arya is nobody after all. Because Rey's parents are nobody. It actually took me a second to get there, Altan. Alatin. There it is. Alatin. It took me a second to get there, but I got that. That's pretty funny, actually. Now that I think about it, that's pretty funny. Jim Jam Baru writes, "Hey, John, not a question, but I thought you'd like hearing I'm a senior in high school and I work at the last drive-in operating in my state." That's good to hear. You know, we were talking about drive-in theaters on the John Campea Show the other day, and I love drive-ins, but I haven't been in almost a decade to a drive-in, and I love the drive-in experience, but they are disappearing and going away. If you get a chance to go to a drive-in, go to a drive-in. Thanks for sharing that, Jim. I am glad you wrote that in. I wonder what that's like working at a drive-in. That must be pretty cool. Let's see. Sorry, I had a bit of a jump. Where are we at? Okay, there we are. And by the way, guys, I'm going to ask, because I do have, I got some stuff I got to do today. So I am going to ask, let me get this in here and put it on. I am going to ask for, please, no more super chats. If you have not sent in a super chat yet, please don't send one in at this point. I've already got a bunch still to come, and I want to make sure, I'm going to try to get to all of them before we sign off so we don't have to do a companion video on this one. But I'm going to ask, if you have not sent in a chat at this point, please don't send in any more. I just want to finish off the ones we got, and then we'll call it a day. All right. Akshu writes, I saw a screen... Let me try this again. I saw a Screen Crush Endgame plot holes video, and I felt like they tried to go out of their way to justify most of them, and it kind of reinforced the plot holes in my mind. Dude, I'm completely with you. Like, all these explaining the plot hole things, they just come out to me as really cheap cop-outs, and I completely agree with you. It just kind of reinforces the plot holes. Like, again, to me, I can live with the plot holes because the plot holes delivered some really exceptional on-screen experiences. So I'll give it a pass, but it's still there. And I agree. All these explaining the plot hole things just sound like desperate cop-outs, desperate to not want to acknowledge there's any problem with our precious Endgame movie. And I love Endgame, but I can love it and acknowledge, dude, it's got some pretty big plot holes in that. So I agree with you, actually, very, very much. I didn't see the one video in particular you're talking about, but I've seen a couple of them. They all just come across to me like desperate cop-outs, including the Russo brothers, by the way, who I love. I love the Russo brothers. But even their little explaining and it just came across as sad kind of cop-outs, to be honest with you. Anyway. Actually writes, also, trolls called me a DC fanboy for preferring Infinity War over Endgame. How does somebody call you DC fanboy because you like one Marvel movie over another Marvel movie? That is the most idiotic thing in the world. And because I tried explaining the plot holes despite never reading a DC comic book and only watching the Nolan trilogy. Well, there you go. But no, see, here's the thing, though. Actually, you got to understand. People can't handle other people not thinking the same way they do, and therefore people, what we naturally do, and let's be honest, we all do it. I've done it, you've done it, we all do it, and we need to figure out a way not to do it. What we do, instead of just accepting that somebody else feels differently about something, we make excuses for why they feel differently. Oh, you don't think the same way I do? Well, then you just didn't get it. Oh, you think differently than I do? Then you're just a DC fanboy. That's the thing. Sometimes we are so fragile and we just can't handle that somebody doesn't think the way we do, that to justify our own thinking, we come up with some excuse, right, as to why the other person doesn't think the same way we do. There must be an excuse. There must be some kind of ulterior motive for them not possibly thinking the same way I do. So somebody hears that you like Infinity War over Endgame. By the way, I think Infinity War is better than Endgame. I love them both. But I do think Infinity War is better than Endgame overall. But some people are so fragile and insecure and they can't handle it, so they come up with an excuse. Oh, then even if it doesn't make sense, you're just a DC fanboy. How does that make sense? Like if I said, oh, I like Suicide Squad better than Endgame, it's still making an excuse, but at least it makes a little bit more sense for you saying I'm a DC fanboy. I'm saying I prefer another Marvel movie over this particular Marvel movie. So that one didn't even make any sense, man. But that's how desperate people think, and that's how desperate people act. And we've all done it. We've all done it. Let's be honest with ourselves. All right. Al Zoles writes, saw Wickedly Evil. Zac Efron was very good, but the rest of the film was meh. Showed Bundy's charm, but really failed to convey the monster he was. Again, not hearing great things about it. And again, the only thing that's real, I mean, I'm intrigued because it's a Ted Bundy story, but I was really intrigued because of Zac Efron. I think he's a great guy to portray it because I think he's a very good actor and an underrated actor as Al. So I'm sad to hear that, but also not surprised to hear that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Madsif writes, thoughts on Wes Anderson's French Dispatch 2020? Oh, I haven't seen it. Well, obviously I haven't seen it. I know very little about it, so I don't really have a thought on it. Other than it's a Wes Anderson film, so I'm curious to see it. K Major writes, hey John, going for my third showing tonight with 12 friends. Buying those tickets sucked. Well, yeah, that's expensive because depending on where you're going to see it, that was probably cost you $200. Hopefully you got all your friends paying you back for that, man. But enjoy it. I've seen it 4 times. I probably got another one in me. I'll probably try to sneak out and catch one more screening of it because I do enjoy this movie an awful lot. I might even buy a ticket with my A-list and just show up for the last hour because the last hour is so good. But anyway, enjoy your time tonight. These things are always best when shared with friends and having shared experiences. I hope you guys all have a great time. All right, Garrett Couch writes, Star Wars Despecialized tonight. Happy Star Wars Day. Yeah, I do like the Despecialized editions, by the way. And by the way, there's another version. I don't know if you can still find them or not, but my buddy Christian Harloff got me introduced to the de-cheesed, the uncheesed, or it's the Star Wars prequels de-cheesed edition. And oh my God, it makes watching the prequels I'm not going to say it makes them great movies, but it makes them a much better viewing experience. If you can find somehow, some way to find those, I would also recommend, Garrett, after watching the Despecialized things, see if you can watch the de-cheesed edition. Richard Karate writes, save or kill Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica? Oh. Well, here's the thing. The Ronald D. Moore 2000s Battlestar Galactica is my all-time #1 best TV show ever. That's my all-time favorite show. The Ronald Moore version of Battlestar Galactica. So, understanding that, as painful as it is to say, I'll save Battlestar Galactica. Okay. Connor Berry writes, what is your favorite place to sit in the theater? 2 or 3 rows from the back, middle. Actually, no, aisle. I like sitting right in the aisle. I like having the extra leg room just to the side of me a little bit to stick my legs out. But my real favorite place to sit is in AMC theaters. They'll have a row where there'll be some wheelchair accessible spaces. So there's no chair there. And most of the time, nobody sits there at all. And then you've got the row behind it that has some bars in front of it. I love taking those seats because it means I can put my feet up on the bars, really stretch out and enjoy myself. So when I'm not in a prime theater that has the motorized leather recliners, that's where I like to sit the most. Let's see here. Artur Mansouri writes, if the director and the actors bring their A game and deliver terrific performances, could the editor ruin it by not editing the movie with a good pace? Oh yeah. Listen, you listen to all the directors. Directors will tell you. You get all your stuff together while shooting the movie, but you tell the story in the editing room. Absolutely. Absolutely. A movie can be completely changed and saved in the editing room. Absolutely it can. And so can a bad editing ruin what would have otherwise been a good movie? Yes. Yes, and I think any director will tell you that. Yeah, I believe that. Hector Jeter writes, so I binged Dead to Me on Netflix. Really good. I don't even know what that is. There's so much stuff on Netflix that I've never even heard of. I'll have to check that out, Hector. Taki75 writes, do we know if Bob Iger liked Infinity War Endgame? Well, Bob Iger was at the premiere. Bob Iger came out and did the introduction, and he kept talking about how this is a really exceptional film, really love this film, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's safe to say that High Lord Emperor Iger really liked the film. Richard Karate writes, save or kill Breaking Bad or The Wire? Ooh. Now, you know what? There are a lot of people who believe The Wire is like the de facto great. There's a lot of people in the television industry who consider The Wire to just flat out be the greatest television show of all time. A lot of television people believe The Wire is the greatest television show of all time. I was late to the game in watching it, but I watch it and it's great. I would personally keep Breaking Bad though. So out of those two, I will take Breaking Bad, but you're going to find a lot of television professionals who would take The Wire on that, but I'll go Breaking Bad. Manny Garcia writes, where'd he go? There he is. Where is your theme song from? My theme song is actually just a piece of music I bought. I bought the rights to a piece of music because I really liked it. It's got a little bit of a WWE intro music kind of feel, and I like that type of stuff. So yeah, I just bought it off them. Let's see. Patrick Conway writes, calling it now, Marvel Studios will use San Diego Comic-Con to promote their movies and a big tribute for Stan Lee, and D23 to promote the Disney Plus shows. I disagree, Patrick. I hope you're right, but why would Disney do that? No, really, why would they do that? Disney has been trying for years to elevate D23. And they've been putting more and more emphasis on D23. And I just don't see why they would do it. Now, I'm not saying they won't have any presence there, but Disney is going to do more than promote more than promote Disney Plus. Because here's the thing. If you're trying to build this thing, D23, they're trying to make D23 their Comic-Con. If you're trying to push and promote that, and you don't talk about any of your Marvel movies or your Star Wars movies or anything like that at it, why is somebody going to come back next time? Seriously, why is somebody going to come back next time? I remember the last D23 I went to, they promoted everything they had. They talked Star Wars, they talked Disney production movies, they talked Marvel movies, they talked everything, which made everybody want to come back. I don't see... And Comic-Con, they have no ownership interest in Comic-Con. So, again, I ain't saying that they won't have any presence at Comic-Con. I'm not saying that. But to think that they're not going to promote their movies at D23, I don't think that's likely at all. I don't see how that makes any sense at all. They will promote everything they've got at D23. I guarantee that. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, movie YouTube channel suggested for you, John. Ralph the Movie Maker. He has a cynical and sarcastic sense of humor that's hysterical. Watch his Mystery Dinners video or his Chips remake review. Okay, I've never heard of that particular channel, but I always like getting recommendations, in particular Razor's Edge, because now you've recommended it to everybody else, and it's always good to hear, so thanks for the recommendation, dude. Richard Crotty writes, my dream casting, Carl Urban as Wolverine, Clive Owen as Batman, Luke Evans as Bond, Chris Pine as Indiana Jones, Johnny Depp as the Joker. Again, I really don't care about X actor and X roles, but hey, if they announced all those castings tomorrow, I'd be down. Those are all good actors in cool roles, particularly like Clive Owen. Clive Owen is not around enough. Where the hell is Clive Owen? Clive Owen should be in a lot more movies. He's just too talented. But those are all like solid choices. I would have no problem with any of those choices. BW Rosa writes, seemed to me Jeff Fowler was expecting the backlash because it seems that statement was prepared to me. Also, does Sonic seem like an origin story? Oh, I don't know. Look, if I'm going to be honest with you, I could give two squirts of piss about Sonic the Hedgehog. I really could. I didn't think the trailer was garbage. I thought the trailer was a little bit cute, actually. But it didn't make me suddenly have big interest in Sonic the Hedgehog. I think the whole idea for this movie is absurd, to be honest with you. But hey, that doesn't mean they can't knock one out of the park and make a great movie. I'm just saying going into it, my starting thing is, who cares? So is it an origin story? I don't care. Was it a prepared statement? No, that was just a tweet. He can come up with that in 3 seconds. So I don't think it was a prepared statement at all. I don't think you go into releasing a trailer purposefully having big backlash and then have a prepared statement. That's just a bad way to operate. So I'm going to disagree with you on that, BW. I can see where you're coming from, but I'm just personally going to disagree on that one, brother. All right, Alex Marvel writes, where'd Alex go? There it is. How important is it for studios to sell toys? Pretty important. I mean, not super important. I mean, how many Avatar toys do you think were sold? Probably not a ton, and yet it's the biggest thing of all time. So there's big potential for revenue there, but not every franchise is Star Wars, you know? Not every franchise is Star Wars. So it's not like if you're relying on toy sales to break even on your movie franchise, then you're doing something wrong. So I'm going to say it's not all that important. It can be very profitable, but not all that important. BW Rosa writes, My Little Pony celebrated 200 episodes. Thoughts? I don't care about My Little Pony. Hey, Ann, My Little Pony just celebrated 200 episodes. Is that a big deal to you guys? Ann is telling me to say yes. So, yes. Of course, my wife Ann is a senior person over at Hasbro, so apparently I'm supposed to say yes. Honestly, I really don't care. I am not a brony. No knock on anybody who is, but I'm not personally a brony. So I really don't care. But my Ann Campea filtered answer is, it's amazing. It's fantastic. I love that My Little Pony just hit 200 episodes. I don't know anything about it, brother. Adam S. writes, I loved Endgame so much, but the DC fan inside me was so sad that DC didn't have the same leadership at the start, but the future looks bright. You know, here's the thing. I will say this, Adam. Is it fair to compare DC to Marvel films? Absolutely, it's fair to do that because these are two films indwelling the same type of genre they're going for, drawing on comic book material with superhero mythos and all that kind of stuff. Is it fair to compare them? Yes. However, what I would also stress is don't evaluate your own success by whether or not somebody else had more success. When you're looking at a movie, like, some people say, man, it really sucks that DC can't have that type of... Well, look, if Wonder Woman 84 comes out and makes $800 million, you need to celebrate that. You need to celebrate it. Don't go, oh, well, Captain Marvel, though, made over $1 billion. That means Wonder Woman's isn't very good. Are you kidding me? If Wonder Woman comes out and makes another $800 million like the first one did, if Wonder Woman 84 comes out and makes $800 million, you celebrate that because that's a huge win. I don't care what Marvel did with theirs. I mean, okay, who cares? Be happy. If you're a DC fan, be happy with that because it's great. An $800 million result is fabulous. Don't worry what Captain Marvel made or didn't make. Whatever. Who cares? Now, could we as fans in discussing the movies and how they compare, is that all fair? Absolutely it is. But don't base, if you're a fan of DC movies, don't base whether or not you're happy with how it compared to another Marvel movie per se, right? Now, I will say, though, that I agree. It is a shame that we haven't had two completely beloved, completely thriving comic book universes going at the same time. Yes, that's a shame. But I've enjoyed a lot of the DC movies. Actually, I've kind of enjoyed them all to some level, or some more than others. And it seems like Walter Mata has them in a new winning pace. I quite enjoyed Aquaman. I loved Shazam. And they seem to be going in a good direction. So let's see how that all kind of turns out. All right. Bob Lewis writes, Cardiff City are a soccer team in South Wales nicknamed the Bluebirds because they play in blue shirts. Oh, that's it. I did not know that. Again, to me, the whole Premier League system to me just sounds awesome. I love the notion. I wish more pro, but that does suck that your team has gotten relegated. But hey, I've heard of a lot of the Premier teams. I've never even heard of Cardiff City. So the fact that you got it, and who knows, next year you'll get back in. All right. Rugo Calvin writes, where were the U.S. Army in Endgame battle against Thanos? I honestly, I can't. That's a spoiler. I can't talk about that. Matthew Rhodes writes, Disney cuts ties with voice actor Jim Cummings. I haven't heard anything about that, so I don't know. And the final question today comes to us from Ant Banks 1984, who writes, Michael Jordan in today's game with no hand checking and with the rules favoring the offensive players, do you think he could have averaged 50 points per game? No. Because look, it's very difficult to try to transpose a player from one era and how would they now perform in this era. We only judge athletes how they compared to the other athletes of their era. Because you can't just say, oh, now there's these different rules. Yes, but today's player is a different breed of player. The players' defense today is way better defense than they were in Jordan's era. Shooting today is better than shooting was in Jordan's era. Like, you got guys who can heave up threes now, like nobody in Jordan's, other than maybe a Larry Bird, but nobody could do that. Today, everybody just heaves threes all the time and are hitting like field goal percentages like we've never seen. More threes are taken today. It's just a different game. I'm not saying that transport Jordan from his era to today and he couldn't be successful. I'm not saying that. But you got to take into consideration that today's players are an elevated, bigger, stronger, more skilled players than they were in Jordan's era. Just like 20 years from now, the players will be stronger, more skilled versions than the players that we have today. So we always only evaluate players and evaluate their greatness in terms of how they were to their contemporaries. That's how you evaluate them. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest pro athlete of all time. There was never a pro athlete that dominated his league. When ESPN laid out all the stats, it's crazy. But that doesn't automatically mean that if you drop Wayne Gretzky in his prime into today's league, that he would have that same level of success, because as the game progresses, players get bigger, they get stronger, they get more skilled, they have better training techniques, they start earlier, all this kind of stuff. So we evaluate athletes as they compare to their contemporaries, and that's how we evaluate their overall greatness. So Jordan is still the greatest player of all time in basketball because he compared to his contemporaries more favorable than I think any other player has. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest hockey player of all time, maybe the greatest professional athlete of all time, because of the way he compared to his contemporaries compared to how other players compare to their contemporaries. So it's a different kind of way to look at it. Anyway, that's just my thought on that, though. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. Thank you for sending in all these great questions, giving us some real fun stuff to talk about, but also because by sending in those questions, you're supporting the channel, and I thank you deeply for that, proving once again that people will support content that they enjoy. Thank you guys for proving that to be true over and over again, and I appreciate it very much. Guys, that'll do it for me today. We got other things coming this weekend. We got more follow-up videos for the Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion stuff. There's going to be more to that to come. Got another open mic tomorrow. Of course, don't forget, tomorrow night we've got our Game of Thrones post-show. Make sure you join us live. Me and Kaori, we're going to be here talking Game of Thrones. Won't be dropping any Endgame spoilers this time, so make sure you join us for that. Lots of good stuff coming. And then, of course, on Monday morning, the John Campea Show returns, and we hope you join us for that as well. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.